Hey YouTube. So, a few topics I want to talk about today, and I'm not sure how many. Might be a couple videos to cover up what I want to talk about. If you've been following my channel at all, or if you haven't, you might want to look at my channel, about my channel video. But this channel is about, first and foremost, giving glory to God, our awesome creator of the awesome flat earth, and praise and glory to Jesus, our Lord and Savior. But, I like to, I'm a big fan of God's awesome creation, so I'm going to start with a little chicken update here, the flat earth chickens, if you've been watching. So, I've got a couple extra roosters, so I'm going to have to kill a couple, and I'm going to eat them. Now, I don't buy any meat from the store. I haven't in many years. The only meat I eat, I either raise or get from other people who raise it themselves, or I forage or fish, So I got this one big rooster that can't seem to fit in. Zora's infatuated with him. She's always chasing him. And I got too many roosters, so I'm gonna have to kill 2 roosters and eat them, and they're really good. And after there's that big one there. See, just everybody's picking on him. The other roosters pick on him. Zora's always chasing him. And he'll be a nice big rooster for the slow cooker. The big roosters like that, if you try to roast them or fry them, they're going to be tough. But you put them in the slow cooker for 6 hours or so until they fall apart, and they got really good flavor. Make great chicken salad or tacos or whatever. And then I got a black one that I was supposed to get hens, but somehow or another I got a black rooster. See if I can spot him here somewhere. So, if you've watched any of my Jesus testimony, I talked a little bit about my life when I lived in a cabin, when I raised all the birds. I had turkeys and ducks and geese and pheasants and chukar partridge and ponds full of fish and big gardens, and I raised all my own food. And then, the cabin burned down and I had to move and all, and so now I still garden and I still got the chickens, and I sell eggs, and, and I eat my chickens when I can. Last year my landlord raised a beef, so I got to eat some beef. Now, after the flood, God said it was okay to eat all the meats, if we wanted to. But, after Jesus came into my heart, I don't enjoy killing them. I never enjoyed killing them, but, I used to not bother me at all. Now I don't really like to do it. And of course, always give thanks. And always thank the bird and thank God for giving us the bird. And, pray before you eat. So, yeah, I got a couple roosters I'm going to have to kill. But there's, I got too many roosters here. There's a little too much mayhem going on. The roosters are always squabbling, and for some reason they always pick on that big red one. So we're going to get rid of him. Yeah, so I guess this video will be about this topic of meats and stuff. Well, also since I got saved, I've been, I watch a bunch of different stuff on YouTube. I have teachers that I watch, different, Christian teachers, and I actually watched some Torah stuff. Now, I got into some comments with one of my good friends on YouTube, Sister Frida, and we're talking about, I mentioned that I studied the Torah and stuff. And that's not because I believe we have to follow those laws by any means, Jesus said on the cross it was finished, so we don't have to follow those laws. However, I believe God put those laws there originally because there was wisdom in them. For instance, shellfish, I used to eat a lot, and I love shellfish, and I spend time on the ocean when I can, and always liked lobsters and clams and scallops and crab, all that crawly stuff on the bottom, but the original Hebrews weren't supposed to eat that stuff, and there is wisdom to it. And I did have a couple lobsters last year, and and I don't think it's a sin by any means to eat that stuff. However, I'm trying to keep my diet good, and and the clams and stuff are very low vibration. They're down on the bottom, they're filtering the water out, you know, and they're kind of, you know, they're kind of dirty, and that's what they told the old Hebrews, that they were considered dirty foods. And like I say, of course, you know, it's not a sin to eat them, but I try not to anymore. And also because they taste so good, it's kind of a pleasure of the flesh, you know. So I try not to spoil myself too much with too much gluttony or pleasure of the flesh anymore. But you know, the food that, you know, for many years, and still even, you know, our food source is so polluted now between factory farming, where the animals are full of antibiotics and just really bad vibrational energy because they're crowded and they suffer a lot. Whether it be, you know, whether it be the eggs that they sell in the store, where those poor birds just sit in a little box, and whether they get fed hormones or not, they're just, you know, that's just their life, is just sitting in a box and laying an egg every day, or a couple eggs every day. They got them now. Or whether it's, you know, the beef, whether even they might have a fairly good life sometimes for a little while, but eventually they end up on those, you know, where they fatten them up, and then they end up in the slaughterhouses, where it's just pretty disgusting how these animals are treated. And you know, so, and then not to mention, you know, all the Monsanto, which I call Monsatan, has GMO'd all our vegetables and all our grains, and they're spraying Roundup on everything. You know, so it's really hard to get good food from a store. I mean, you can, you know, you can get some good food from the store, but really you've got to search out local providers, or do as much of it you can yourself, or if you can, harvest it from nature. But, you know, I haven't eaten store-bought meat in many years. You know, of course, like I say, I always had plenty of my own. I mean, I ate like a king for many years. Whether it would be every night of the week would be something different that I raised myself or harvested from nature. And I mean, and I'm a chef because of that. I've spent some time chefing, and the main thing about making good food is having good things to start with. When you grow really beautiful food, you don't need to do much to it. Like when I kill these roosters, you know, you don't need to do much to them. I'll put them in a slow cooker, and a big tough old rooster, one of these big old laying hens, has to go, and I cook them up. Like I say, if you roast them or fry them, they're going to be tough. But man, you put them in a slow cooker and wait till they start falling apart, and they have so much flavor, Zora. They have so much flavor, and they're completely different than something you might buy in the store, which is just those white Cornish crosses that just sit in a little area and just get fat really fast. And they're not even like chickens. I've raised them before, and you know, even when I try to put them outside and let them free range, they don't really go anywhere. They kind of just sit there and wait for you to give them grain. And if you feed them too fast, they outgrow their legs. They can't even move. You know, they're just bred. They're not GMO'd, but they're just bred really specifically to create a very large breast and to grow really fast. And you know, when I used to do those white Cornish crosses, I would make sure I turned them out hungry with the laying hens, and I wouldn't feed them any grain, and make sure they'd have to walk around and look around, you know, because they're hungry. They want to eat because that's how they're bred, to eat a lot and grow fast. So if I turned them out hungry in the morning, you know, they would get some exercise and they would never outgrow their legs, and they tasted pretty good, you know, a little better than the store-bought ones, but you know, raised here like this, these roosters, well, you know, right now there's another foot of snow on the ground after yesterday. April 1st, we got another foot of snow. That's why I'm still inside making these videos. But you know, these, you'll see later on when everything starts growing, these guys get out in the weeds. They're eating bugs, greens, scratching all the time, looking for stuff, plus all the nice stuff I feed them. You know, and you know, once everybody's gardens and stuff, you know, right now I'm getting restaurant scraps and a lot of bread, but I've got sources, you know, when there's a real bounty of the vegetables and stuff, I get lots of stuff for these guys to eat. When I used to raise the pigs, it was the same way. I mean, they would eat apples and pumpkins in the fall when I finished them off, and you know, all that stuff. I think people, if they've never had homegrown food, they don't know what real pork tastes like or what real chicken tastes like. You get one of these, you get that big guy standing over there that everybody's picking on, and unfortunately, he's going to be in my crock pot before too long. You know, it's too bad. You know, like I'm not going to really raise a lot of meat like I used to, because I don't like having to kill them. But if I am going to eat meat, and if I am going to raise them, you know, I feel like it's my responsibility to do it. I get I get a little irritated when, you know, I talk to vegetarians and vegans, and well, you know, no, I respect vegans and vegetarians. You know, don't get me wrong. You know, I'm kind of maybe thinking at some point I may end up being a vegan. But at this point, you know, I still like to fish, and you know, and the food is good for you, and God said it's okay to eat this stuff, and I believe, you know, it's here for us to harvest and use respectfully. But so yeah, I didn't mean vegans, but like people that eat meat that have never seen an animal killed or have never taken any responsibility for eating that meat. They go to the store and they buy it, or even if they buy it at the farmer's market. But when you mention, you know, you say, well, I've got to kill some chickens or whatever, and they're like, oh, I could never do that. Well, you know, that's part of the deal. You know, if you're going to eat the meat, even if you can't grow the meat yourself, I think at some point anybody that's eating meat, that eats chicken, should see what it means. You know, and if you're going to eat store-bought chicken, look at how those birds are treated when they're raised in a factory farm. And if you're going to eat chicken like mine that's on a farm, you know, talk to your farmer or make it a point to maybe to understand that this is a living thing that God gave us and should be treated with respect. And you know, if you're gonna have somebody else do your dirty work all the time, you know, at least understand what goes into it. You know, so at some point somebody's got to take a knife and kill that animal and take its life so that we can eat it. So that's why it's very important to thank God for all of his bounty. So yeah, and as far as fish goes, I'm gonna be doing some videos out of my boat if the weather would ever break, because I fish a lot, and I think it'd be nice to do videos out of my boat. And like I say, if you've looked at my channel, about my channel, you know that a lot of my videos are going to be about nature and about things that we can harvest from nature and how to cook them. Eventually we're going to get into my kitchen, or I'm going to do some cooking outside and show you how I prepare a lot of God's bounty. But what's interesting too is a thing about fishing is, you know, a lot of the apostles were fishermen, and Jesus ate fish, and you know, he turned a couple fish. He fed a lot of people off just a couple fish, and then you know, when he was in the boat, they caught so many fish they had to call another boat over. So you know, it always helps to have Jesus in your boat if you're a fisherman. And maybe that's why I've always caught a lot of fish, is because Jesus has always been helping me. But anyway, so you know, I love to fish and I love to eat fish, and so that's a great way to give God glory. But yeah, so that was just one of the topics I was going to cover today. I didn't realize I was going to go 13, 14 minutes into it, but so yeah, if you've been following the channel, a couple of the flat earth roosters are going to be harvested soon, and that'll keep Zora from pestering that poor big one all the time, and kind of calm things down around here. And then I got the black one too that I gotta get rid of. See if I can find him. I'll show you what happened yesterday out here. It's too bright to do these videos outside with all this fresh snow on the ground. There's the big one that's going to be harvested. And I don't see the black one anywhere. He must be in here somewhere. Oh, maybe he's in the back corner there. Yeah, and as soon as the weather breaks, I got to clean this chicken house up too. I got a lot of mess to clean up in here. All winter long, it hasn't been shoveled out. So there's a little bit of a chicken update, a little bit of a ramble about food. I hope somebody gets something out of it. And I'm going to shut this one off and turn it back on and talk about some other stuff. All right, God bless all you guys. I love you very much. Hope you got something out of this video. Bye now.